Are you playing this game on easy mode or hard mode? There's also a story mode, but those are for some lucky few. The way I view life, I grew up playing a lot of video games. So as I look into life, I notice how much of a video game it actually is. I mean, it's not as, you know, one for one, but it's more around, hey, if you look at it this way, it makes things a little bit easier. Now, when I talk about hard mode, for instance, which we don't want to know that folks may love the challenge. You see all these videos of people playing games on the hardest difficulty from their first playthrough, and they die a lot or they fail a lot before they end up beating the game. Also, if you are a gamer, there are these things. If you're not a gamer, there are these things called trophies. I think Xbox has something called achievement, similar thing. Basically, you do things within the game uh, that give you these trophies or achievements. It's a virtual one, so it's not real. But I know I've been the type to be like, I want this trophy for no reason than to just challenge myself in getting it. Usually, games have a trophy for completing the game on hard mode. In life, you don't get a trophy for completing a game on hard mode. I look at it differently in life. I want to live life on easy mode. Now, what does that mean? Well, I took some notes on here, so you'll see my eyes dart. But basically, when you're living life in hard mode, you're lazy, you're unmotivated, you're choosing the easy route in everything you do, you're not growing or learning, and you're always looking to escape. Now, how do I view that? Well, somebody that doesn't go to the gym, somebody who sits at home and just plays video games all day or watches TV all day, and they're not really doing much. Someone who I know during 2021, I believe, TikTok blew up with these folks talking about their day in the life at their easy jobs, whether, a lot of them worked at like Google and stuff. And they would just show them being, whether in the office or working from home and like barely working or something. Um, they're just playing life on easy. And when you get used to playing it that way, when life throws you a curveball, and it will, they end up like faltering and falling apart because when you play life on easy mode, you're not earning experience points. There's very few people who could play this game life on hard mode and become very successful. There's very few. And if so, that's because they probably had a lucky break, or they've played the game before so many times that they end up figuring it out. Those are those people that end up becoming successful later on in life, and they probably were like, they had basic jobs, they were regular people for majority of their life, and then they end up being successful maybe after 50. And there's tons of folks in history that have done that. Um, but that's what I view hard mode, because hard mode is not preparing for the future, not preparing for when things hit the fan, because they will. That's not having a savings account, hard mode. That's not working out and ending up going to the hospital frequently, or getting a autoimmune disease, or getting sick because you haven't been taking care of yourself, hard mode, because then you have to take medicine, or you have to do something different in your life. And granted, some people unfortunately are born with some of these sicknesses, and they are faulted into this hard mode. Um, but depending on how they live their life, they can turn that around. But some people in our society, as we've seen, I think more than half of Americans are obese now, and they're just playing life on easy mode. Sorry, on hard mode, because I say the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So it's about maintaining some semblance of control over your body, so that when the uncontrollable happens, you are able to manage it better. Now, easy mode, as I said, preparing for the future, you're connecting with people that, once you have a community and a team, they help you rise. You're growing, you're learning, you're leaning into issues versus just escaping them. And why you do this is because you're preparing for the future. You're preparing for the worst case scenario. And in case anything happens, you're like, ha, I'm ready. It's like having it's like having a trump card. I remember in video games, sometimes you will have a trump card. I think of Final Fantasy, your trump card would be something like a limit break, where if you get attacked enough times and you become weakened, you would get a special attack that you're able to do. It's kind of like a Hail Mary attack. It's very powerful. Um, and I think that that happens in life too, where you get beaten down so many times that eventually you'll get your own limit break and you'll be able to break through something. Um, and this is why we go through these phases of life, and life is more like this. And there are some people, when I say story mode, that are born into a family that has money, they're safe, they have both parents. Obviously they have their own issues, but I think if you have the resources, that makes things slightly easier because you can seek help easier. You can afford a therapist, you can afford, unfortunately, some people go through addictions. You can afford to go to rehab. You can afford these things. And while it's still challenging, they have the resources to make it through. Versus people who unfortunately weren't born in those circumstances. We'd say we can add another mode, which is normal mode, which is majority of people, but we're not born into any crazy money. Maybe they're low to medium income, and yeah, you had food, you had both your parents, you had a whole house over your head, but you maybe didn't have extra resources to be able to do all these other things, and you maybe had to start working earlier in your life. You start to shift the life into easy mode as you are growing, preparing for the future, learning, connecting with people, leaning into problems that come into your life. Because once you lean into those problems, instead of escaping, they don't fester, they don't grow. And that's what you don't want. You don't want your problems to go. You want to tackle them head on. I've had problems in my life where I just ignore them, and 5 or 6 years later, they start to really grow, and they start to be loud and in your face, and they take up a lot of mental space. So you can't focus on these other things you want to do. So when you lean into them, you free up space in your mind. You free up energy. You free up time taken in so that you can focus on the things that are going to make you successful in life and turn life into, maybe switch from normal mode or hard mode to easy mode. And there's any moment you can do that. That's what I love about video games. Sometimes you hit start, maybe you're having a trouble in one section of the game, and you can go to difficulty and switch it right there. I wish it was that easy. Life isn't as simple as that. Again, it's not one to one. Maybe you can. And it will take time. Maybe it'll take a few years, but eventually it'll work out as long as you're trying to do easy mode in life. Hope that makes sense to y'all. I'm curious to what you think. Comment below. I'd love to see, continue a conversation here. Again, I know it's not one to one, but let's try the perspective of looking at life as a video game. Every challenge that you stand in front of and you lean into it, you gain experience points. And every challenge you turn away from, it's eventually going to become loud and become a big evil boss that you have to fight. And it's not going to be an easy battle.